baseball, not always the best team wins, right? You got to still go out there and get it done.
Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. We're there. We're here. The first tournament around the corner, the first one with us will be the Arch Madness over at Warrenton. Hope to see you at the ballpark. We've got our Super 7 series that we're going to be having a lot of fun with. I appreciate all the coaches accepting the invitation, coming out to the YBM 14U Super 7 Invitational. We're going to have a good time. We got 16 teams out there. Looks like they opened up a couple more spots, so I'm going to reach out to a couple more teams that we had talked to about coming out. We want to have as much fun. I love the 14U piece because it gives us an opportunity to see that next generation coming into high school baseball, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Remember our Saturdays at the park, interviews, baseball trivia. We got baseball cards we're giving away. We've got some new things coming up, and we'll get those out to you here soon, but we're going to have a lot of fun. So if you haven't registered already, go to game7baseball.com and look forward to seeing you at the ballpark. If you want to follow us on our socials, if you're a social person, go to X at YBMcast or at YBM_cast. IG, Facebook, and TikTok. You can follow us at Youth Baseball Midwest. We put up a lot of shorts and have some fun that way. We got a great bunch of short interviews. We're out at the Scout Connect event. Those interviews with the folks in Illinois, they've been great. We had a good time out there with those kids. So make sure you check those out. Today on the Prime Sports Call Link, we have with us the director of Scout Connect, Diego Solares, joining us. How's it going, buddy?
I'm great now that the two winter showcase weekends are over. And I am getting ready for the high school season. So I'm in a great spot, Brian. Thanks for asking. Great spot mentally.
We had a lot of fun out there. It was great talking to those kids, getting to know some of those kids over there. And speaking of Illinois, from the IHSA, we have the Associate Executive Director for Baseball, Sam Knox, joining us to talk some baseball, some Illinois baseball today. Sam, appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, man.
My pleasure. Baseball practice starts really soon here in Illinois, and it's nice to start feeling the temperature change just a little bit. It's not in the single digits anymore. It's time to start thinking high school baseball.
Absolutely. And you know, that's the thing. It's so funny. I'm watching the weather this weekend. It's going to be beautiful. And, you know, everybody's going to get that bugaboo to go out on the diamond, right?
Yeah, and with so many schools and park districts now having artificial turf, yeah, you'll see a lot of kids out playing ball even when it's maybe when we were kids, the artificial turf fields didn't exist and you didn't get out there till it was, you know, in the 40s or 50s. But nowadays kids will go out and play catch and hit the ball around because they have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always used to, you know, I can smell the grass, but honestly anymore, it's like, can you smell the turf? I don't know, or the rubber pellets or whatever it is in there. It's either way, it's a little different aroma, but you know, it's always different. But hey, you know what? Thank goodness for the turf because you need it in these areas to play baseball, right? If you don't,
well, that's right. And the schools that have it, you know, they get asked by a lot of their neighbors who don't have it. Hey, we got rained out on Monday. Can we reschedule a game at your place on Wednesday? And I think the schools who have the turf, you know, they not only use it for baseball, they use it for other activities too, PE classes or maybe some band practice and things like that. So it's a fantastic investment and it lets a lot of kids do more things than they ever used to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sam, would you want to tell the folks a little bit about yourself and, you know, how you got into this, man?
Yeah, this is my 10th year at the IHSA, and I'm responsible for football, boys and girls wrestling, and baseball. Before my time at the IHSA, I was a teacher and a coach, originally from the far western Illinois area, just near Quincy. I went to Mendon Unity High School, which is about 10 miles north of Quincy, right along the Mississippi River. My wife attended Quincy Notre Dame. So we're Western Illinois natives, but about 10 years into my career as a teacher and a coach in Western Illinois, I took the AD job at Lincoln High School, right in the middle of the state, and was the athletic director at Lincoln for 11 years, and then came to the IHSA 10 years ago. So wrapping up year number 10, hard to believe that I've been in education for a little over 30 years.
It goes by in a blink, doesn't it?
Sometimes it does. I say it, when we're parents and we're raising kids, when we're doing our thing for high school sports, the days can be really long, but the years go really fast.
Boy, I ain't no lie. So tell us a little bit about what is the role of an associate executive director for IHSA?
I'll jokingly say I answer a lot of questions, but they're all good questions, and they're usually from school administrators, coaches, parents, even sometimes students call our office with questions. Certainly umpires and officials call us too. But the main role, we provide guidance on our handbook, our bylaws, and our policies that our schools have approved over the years that govern everything from the length of the season to the state series and what regionals and sectionals look like, pitch count policies and procedures, scheduling policies and procedures, things like that. We just work with our schools to make sure schools understand the rules and the bylaws and that they follow them to the best of their ability. And then a big part of our job, no doubt, is to organize the state series, find regional and sectional and super sectional hosts. I know you guys don't call your tournaments that in Missouri, but you know what I'm talking about. And then, of course, manage and operate the state finals tournaments at the very end of the season. That's a major part of our role, too.
Diego, jump in here anytime you want to, man. Okay.
Cool.
Go ahead.
I'm good. I'm a fly on the wall right now. I'm a fly on the wall.
No. You've been through all this yourself when you went to high school, because so I'm the one that's on the outside looking in. Excuse me. Choke myself up.
And another really important piece that I didn't mention is umpire education. And we all know that we want our amateur umpires who umpire as a hobby, as a side gig, if you want to call it that. They do make a little bit of money, not a lot. But we want them to be as educated as possible, give them the confidence and the skills for rules knowledge, game management, how to talk with coaches and players and those type of things, understand, the infield fly rule and the balk rules and all those details that we all have come to know over the years in baseball. A big part of our role is educating those umpires too. And I'm always excited to help educate the brand new guys, whether that's an 18-year-old brand new guy or a 60-year-old brand new guy who really understand that we need umpires to make youth baseball and high school baseball happen. And they're willing to step in and do it. But sometimes they don't know exactly what they're getting into. So we have to help take them from day one all the way to get them ready to umpire, whether it's a 10U baseball game or a JV or a varsity baseball game. We want them to be ready.
I think that's the fascinating part, because I've heard this. I umpired high school baseball. I've umpired youth baseball. I did that for about 13 years. And I always heard you hear from the stands, you ought to read the rule book. And I think it's hilarious sometimes when I hear people say it, I'm like, I have to. How many questions is the test these umpires have to take for Illinois?
Great question. We have what we call a question bank of 50 questions. And we encourage the umpires to print those questions out on paper. They can get together with their buddies. They can get together with their association, get out the rule book and the case book and find the answers and write them down on paper. And then each umpire, when he goes into our official center, will get 25 random questions out of that 50 question bank. So ultimately they're judged and tested on 25 questions, but your 25 won't be the same as Diego's 25 or my 25. We mix them up a little bit.
I like that. And that does I love that part of it because it makes the official go to the rule book, because how many different things and how big a separator as far as Illinois is concerned from the NFHS.
Oh, we're locked in with the NFHS. We follow their rule book to the letter. The only differences we have from different states are a couple of state association adoptions, which our pitch count policy may not be identical to Missouri or Arkansas or Indiana, but they're close. And then our mercy rule, our run rules, might be a little bit different. We have a 10-run rule after 5 innings or a 15-run rule after 4 innings, and that's from game 1 of the season all the way through the state championship at all levels.
I like, and that is a little different because some go 15 after 3, and the adoption it just depends on, I think Missouri does 3, so that's interesting that you go 4. Are there any particular rules or points of emphasis that you guys have for 2026?
Yeah, actually, I also serve on the NFHS baseball rules committee. So we meet every June over in Indianapolis and talk about the different rule proposals that come from around the country. But in 2026, the only brand new rule is that the defense is only allowed 1 player-to-player meeting per inning. And people might say, well, what's the reason behind that? Well, the main reason behind it is to prevent the catcher from going out to the pitcher repeatedly during the same inning, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to slow the game down. It's just a pace of play rule. So just like the offense can have 1 offensive conference per inning, now the defense gets 1 player-to-player meeting per inning. And that's usually going to be the catcher calls time. Hey, Blue, I want to go talk to my pitcher. And he does, and whether the whole infield comes together on the mound or if it's just the pitcher and the catcher, they get 1 of those per inning. Now, we don't want people to get crazy with that. It's okay for, a ground ball to second, they throw it to first, they get the first out of the inning, they throw it around the infield, and they kind of come together real quick at the mound and tap gloves and give a little encouragement to each other. That's not a player-to-player meeting. Those can continue to happen. And certainly, the coaching staff gets the traditional coaches conferences on the mound too. And of course in high school, they get a maximum of 3 before they have to remove the pitcher on the 4th conference at the mound. Another rule that's going to come into effect in 27, but that kind of giving schools the heads up, is that we will have a double first base in the high school level starting in 27. In 26, we are not going to use the double first base in Illinois. I'm not sure how the Missouri high schools are going to handle it, but we just decided to avoid any confusion of, on Monday you play with a double first base and on Tuesday you don't, and on Thursday you do. We didn't want that confusion for teams and umpires with the different rules. So we are not using it in 26, but it will be required starting next season in 27.
I think it's interesting because I think it's the same thing when we talked with Mr. Bradley, that they're getting it out. The information is there. I don't think anybody, but by 2027, it has to be in place. You have to use it. And I think that's good to give schools a chance. You're going to have to go purchase the equipment, right?
Right. And the schools that have, a traditional grass and dirt field, they're going to have to do something different at first base and put another, anchor in the ground and dig a hole and put that in there to have two pegs basically at first base. The schools that have artificial turf or schools that use a college field or a park district field with turf don't necessarily have to dig a hole in the new turf, but there are products out there where you'll still be able to have that double first base with only 1 anchor in the ground. And I can't really describe it without showing you a picture of it, but the bases are connected and they're solid, so it's not going to cause any turned ankles or anything like that at first base.
Yeah, no safety issues, right?
Right.
What do you think of that, the new rule with the 2 bases, Diego?
I get it. I know why they're doing it, right? Like, so you can have the runner go through 1 base and the first baseman stay on the other base. My question for you, Sam, would be whether on a national level or at the IHSA level, has there been any conversation at all about a pitch clock in any capacity at the high school level, like there is in basketball with a shot clock now?
Yeah, there sure has been. And we all know that at the college level in Major League Baseball, they use a pitch clock. The challenge of implementing that at the high school level is that many of our fields won't be able to have a visible pitch clock. They might play at a park district field, especially in Illinois and in Chicago. A lot of our city schools in Chicago don't have their own field right out the back door like other schools do. They use a park district field, they use a college field, so it would be a challenge. If we do implement it, I could see maybe the base umpire having a stopwatch, but then that's one extra thing a base umpire has to think about and manage during a game. So we've had those discussions, but it really hasn't gone much farther than just a discussion.
Sure.
That's interesting too, because, with just a 2-man crew and you add that to the base official, you'd almost want a third official, that third base official there with that to manage that scenario. I think that at being a base umpire, understanding you're watching your for balks and things and the other responsibilities you have, knowing that I've got to click something and set those things, and that would get kooky a little bit, I think.
I mean, it gets confusing at the collegiate level too. Like I've been to some junior college games where they don't have a clock, like a visible clock. And there's an umpire doing it in a 3-man crew or a 2-man crew at the junior college level. And like, there's no way. It's like, you'll have some at bats where it's 27 seconds and the umpire completely forgot about the clock whatsoever. So I get it. It was more of just saying, like, they're doing it collegiately. They're doing it in the big leagues, like a pace of play thing. But for financial reasons and other things, obviously putting a big old clock that costs like $400 to be visible probably isn't realistic everywhere. So
now, technically in the rule book, it does say the pitcher must pitch the ball within 20 seconds. That's in the high school rule book.
Yeah.
But in all my years of watching high school baseball and umpiring, I have never seen a violation called because a kid took longer than 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah. And some kids take longer than there's some kids that get up on the mound, bing, bang, boom, and go. And then everybody's trying to slow that kid down. Right?
Yeah. Sometimes you talk to the catcher and say, hey, go tell him to slow down a little bit. We don't want a bunch of balks today.
Mercy. I always think rules, and I think the pace of play, and what you guys implemented there is interesting to me. And I think that it is a big thing, I think, even for high school baseball, especially if you got fields with no lights, you're losing. And I've been on the field at dusk at times in those early parts of the year, and it can be a little bit dicey with, especially if you got cloud cover. And it can be kind of dark. So I think the safety part of that is there as well, correct?
Oh, no doubt about it. And that's a lot of pressure on high school, again, amateur umpires who are doing this as a hobby to make that decision. When do we keep playing? Is it just light enough to keep playing, or when do we stop? Because nobody wants a kid or an umpire or a fan or anybody to get injured by a batted ball when they can't see it coming. And I've been guilty of that. You've probably been guilty of that as an umpire, of probably letting a game go too long. And I will talk to the catcher, or if I'm in the field, I'll talk to the players and say, can you guys still see the ball? Or can we keep playing? Are we good? And sometimes they'll tell you, no, I didn't hardly see that last one. Okay, we better stop. So it's a tough call. But early in the season, a lot of our umpires in schools face that. But I also have seen, and it frustrates the heck out of me, where let's say we get to the bottom of the 6th and the umpires let the inning start, and then in the middle of the bottom of the 6th they say, oh, we're done, it's too dark. Ideally, we'd like to stop after an inning or after a half inning when we don't get 2 runners on in the bottom of the 6th with 1 out and the team's down by 1, and the umpires say, okay, we're done. Well, couldn't you have done that 15 minutes ago before the inning started? Come on. So we try to tell our umpires to use some common sense there too.
Yeah, and I think that's where the awareness of an umpire, hey, coach, look, we're going to finish this after the 6th. This is going to be it. We got to deal with this. It's getting a little too dark. Safety. And I know there may be a coach that goes, oh, come on, but as an umpire, you're the official there. You're the one in charge, and you have to, whether people like it or dislike it, you have to make decisions. And, good, bad, or indifferent, as an official, you always know 50% of the people are going to like you and 50% aren't. That's the way it goes. So you do. And you have to make decisions. And I think that's the toughest thing, as you said, for amateur officials, because we don't want, it's high school baseball and you're, it is what it is in that respect. So I don't know that much about this. I want to shift here. Diego and I have had, he's teaching me about Illinois baseball over there, which is good. And the one thing, that we see I've seen in the Missouri side is you have the classifications, you have schools that move classes up and down and this and that. What is what are the, rules there? Do you have the private school rules, championship factors and things like that on the Illinois side?
Yeah, we do. And it's kind of a new system this year. We remodel it after last school year and are working with some new rules. But our class 1A is everybody from the smallest school all the way up to enrollment 300. And then class 2A is 301 up to 700. And then 3A, 701. I don't remember the cutoff between 3A and 4A. But anyway, we do have cutoffs between classes. And then for our non-boundaried schools or our private schools, if they earn a certain level of postseason success, their enrollment gets multiplied by 1.65, which sometimes it means they move up a class. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, if you take a school of 120 kids and multiply them by 1.65, well, guess what? They're still going to be in 1A. It doesn't change anything. But we also have the success factor. I think you guys call it the championship factor. We call it success factor, kind of the same thing, where if you earn 2 state trophies over the past 2 school years, you automatically move up a class. So 3 of our private schools that earned state trophies last year will move up. So in your area, Father McGivney is a really solid small school baseball program. The coaches there have done a fantastic job building up that program. So Father McGivney will move up to 2A this year. Our 1A state champion from last year, Ottawa Marquette, will move up to 2A. And then our 2A state champion, Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin, who's had a long-standing traditional strong team, just like Marquette and Father McGivney, SHG will move up to 3A this year. So there's some changes there within our private school structure, but everybody, if they want to dig into those details, they can go to our website and check out enrollments and classifications, and all the information is right there.
Anything you want to throw in there, Diego?
Nope. It's interesting to me how it all works out. But yeah, so it's all now for the enrollment factor. This was actually a question I had. Does that count this current senior class, or is it just the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors when you're factoring in enrollment?
Yeah, every state handles that a little bit differently. In Illinois, we do count all 4 grade levels. So we actually look a year in the past, because we look at last year's September 30th enrollment that the school had to turn into the State Board of Education, and that's what we go by for the following year. So we're actually kind of a year behind, so to speak, but we have to grab a number from somewhere. So we grab last year's September 30th enrollment for all 4 grade levels.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because that's been a question. I'm glad you asked that, because that's I've heard some different factors involved in that. So, championship. Have you guys ever? I know that it just. I'm just looking at around and different things, and the last year, Diego and I went through, the championship, the brackets, and whatnot, and honestly, just the layperson looking into that, it looks a bit confusing. It looks a little overwhelming at times. I'm getting used to it because I go in and look now and I go, okay, I think I get it now. And I'm looking here and looking there. And but going through the playoff system, it's a large scale. That's got to be somewhat difficult at times, just logistically.
It sure is. And that's one of the more challenging parts of this role is figuring all that out. I call it the big puzzle, and it is a puzzle. You have to put teams, in their geographic sectionals and regionals, and you don't want a team from the Wisconsin border traveling all the way down to the Kentucky border, or a team from the Indiana border traveling to the Missouri border to play a high school baseball game. So we keep them somewhat locally, regionally, and sectionally. And then at the super sectional level, they might play a team from a little bit farther away. And then, of course, at the state finals, it's a collection of teams from all over Illinois. So our 1A, 2A state finals is at Champaign at the University of Illinois. They've got a really nice stadium there for 1A, 2A baseball. And then our 3A and 4A, our two larger classes, are up in Joliet at a minor league stadium in Joliet.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have you ever thought, is there discussion to changing that? I know some of the areas it goes differently, go to more of a college playoff format, with double elimination. Some are now going to a series, best 2 out of 3, and things of that nature. Are there any discussions like that in Illinois?
We haven't had those in our office or even with our baseball advisory committee. Ours is a true, single elimination tournament. And that's what I really like about it, because it's so unpredictable, especially in high school baseball. I say this, in football, usually the better team's going to win. In basketball, usually the better team's going to win. But in baseball, there are so many factors that go into a baseball game. And it's really fun to see how the bracket plays out, because the better team, they're favored to win by seed, but the better team doesn't always come out on top in baseball just because it's a one-game series, so to speak. But I do know that some of the southern states, like the SEC conference states, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, I think they do play some type of best 2 out of 3 or series in their certain levels of their program or their postseason. But I don't think that all their schools qualify like in Illinois. Now, I think in Missouri, do all schools play in the postseason tournament?
Yeah, everybody plays in the districts. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then it filters out from there. And district champions go on to the state playoffs at that point. Yeah. Which
that's a challenge when you try to have everybody involved, and I think that's a good thing to allow all schools to play at least one postseason game. We could filter it down and only select, a certain level of the top teams who've performed well during the season, and maybe have time during the postseason to play 2 out of 3. But that would mean that some teams don't get to participate. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, no, and I do. I like the fact that at least you got a shot if you're playing, at that point to move on. I just think once you get into some of the, what you guys call, I guess, the regional or super sectional pieces, is there ever been any thought to that, changing the format in that respect? Evidently not, because you already said that, right?
No, we haven't had those discussions, but
I actually like how it lays out, having been around it and also having played in it. Because you have like that Wednesday, Saturday regional, right? You play the regional semi, probably like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then you play the championship on a Saturday. So you still have to use 2 arms. And then you bounce back right away again and play Wednesday, Saturday for sectionals. And then if you're fortunate enough to win a sectional championship, it's a quick turnaround to a Monday, most of the time to a super, where now you have to use a third arm. And then right into state Friday, Saturday. So it still allows the teams to throw their best guys, which in the playoffs, that's what you want. You want your number 1 starting one game, your number 2 starting another game. It does test the depth. If you are fortunate enough to get to a super, like, you can't use your number 1 or your number 2 if you use them the week before, but those guys are still available for state Friday, Saturday, which is obviously what you would want. I think baseball is meant to be played in series, but even then, it honestly makes it more impressive if you win a state championship in Illinois, because you basically have to win 7 straight games against pretty much all good teams. So I personally like the way it lines up.
So, and that to me though, it's still a matter of, you still have to have depth. As you're talking about there, you're not reliant on 1 or 2 guys. You still have to have a pitching staff to go up there and win all the way through. And I think that to me is still a structure about baseball. You're not dependent on one guy. Whereas basketball, I mean, if you got a 50-point scorer dude that just kind of goes out and just outshoots everybody, you can ride somebody to a championship.
I will say too, like I just look at like just being here in Edwardsville, like for them, when regional play rolls around, they're going to play somebody from around this area, right, in the Southwestern Conference. And in the sectional semifinal, they will probably play somebody from down here in the area too. But then they have to go after that game up most of the time to Illinois Wesleyan to play a sectional championship game, then come back on a Saturday, go back up somewhere else on Monday, win that game, come back down here, and then go up to Joliet for state. That's just like pretty grindy, honestly. Like if you're going to win a state title, you're really earning it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way Missouri does their district.
Sure.
But like if you're Francis Howell in your district play, you're playing Francis Howell North, you're playing Fort Zumwalt West, you're playing Troy or Liberty Wentzville or somebody relatively close to you. And then again, you're playing somebody in the state quarterfinals that's probably like I think historically it's like CBC or SLU or DeSmet, which again is relatively close to you, which makes sense logistically. It's just different in like actually having to kind of get after it in a way and go all over the place. And you're dealing with 17, 18-year-old kids that have to get on a 3-hour bus ride and come back home and then go back up to state. It's very college baseball-like, honestly. So that's part of the reason why I enjoy it too.
There you go. I like it. Well, Sam, I'll tell you, one of the things we're excited about this year is we've got our border battle that we're going to throw out there this year. We got Francis Howell's traveling over to Edwardsville, and these two juggernauts are going to face off. And we're hoping to create more opportunities like this in the future between quality teams between the two, because, there's some really good baseball being played in Illinois. Like the Midwest, we've talked about this. The future looks pretty good for Illinois baseball, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I'm impressed every year with the level of talent we see deep into our postseason tournament, whether it's at the sectional championships or the super sectional, or especially at the state finals. There are some really talented young men who play baseball here in Illinois, and we're excited for them to represent their high school and their community on the state level in high school, but then to see where they go after that. And it's always special to see maybe a kid on television someday playing for a major league team and say, he played for an Illinois high school, whether it was a Chicago-based suburban high school or somebody in central Illinois or southern or in the Metro East area where you guys are talking about. It's always really nice to see our high school kids go on and have a future in baseball, whether that's 2 years at the JUCO level or all the way to the major league level. Makes us feel pretty good that we seem to be doing things the right way here in Illinois and giving those kids an opportunity.
That's awesome. Sam, anything else you want to add to there, Diego, before we let Mr. Knox get on with his day?
I'm all good. I appreciate your time, Sam, for dropping some knowledge on how the IHSA, like some of the back office, back end things of the IHSA. There's a lot of work that goes into it. I don't think people really understand how much coordination it takes to put on a whole high school season. So
I joke and say we hardly ever get those phone calls where people, hey, I went to the local ball game the other day and I had a great experience. The officials were fantastic. The coaching staff was just A+, and the popcorn tasted delicious. It was just the best thing ever. We don't get those calls. We get the opposite end of the spectrum, and we have to find a way to use people skills and manage those.
I'm shocked that you guys have never you don't typically get phone calls like that. It's really surprising.
It's unfortunate. I wish more people would. And if you do, just to that point, give the folks a call and tell them that you did have a good time. It'd be nice, right?
Well, I try to keep it in perspective. And yes, we all, whether it's volleyball, soccer, football, baseball, whatever, we get those calls. But I always try to say, listen, we got that one or two upset parent or coach who called us. There were hundreds, and in baseball, thousands of other kids who played baseball, and we didn't hear from their parents or their coach. So we must be doing something a little bit right.
There you go. There you go. Sam Knox, folks. He is the Associate Executive Director for Baseball in the IHSA. I'll spit that out in a moment. Really do appreciate you taking the time and responding so quickly. We hope to get you on in the future and have you. Love talking with these organizations and keeping up to date on what's going on. Appreciate your time, Sam.
Hey, you bet, guys. Keep up the great work, and we're looking forward to some baseball right around the corner.
Absolutely. You have a good day. All right, folks, we're going to jump into some baseball here with Diego and talk a little bit first about the border war. Or I say war. I'm not using that terminology. It's bad. I just say border battle. There it is. Border battle. That's what we're calling it, Diego. And want to talk about these two teams a little bit here. We'll start in the Edwardsville side. Coach Funkhauser, of course, tenure has been just outstanding. He's just year after year, they put a quality product on the field, and he's got a young team this year, doesn't he?
He does. But that being said, I still think they're going to be really good.
You want to see my shocked face?
This is part of the reason why, like, having the winter showcase circuit when it comes to high school teams is so important.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm gonna put my hand up for some accountability here. I think a couple of weeks ago I dropped a statement that O'Fallon was going to be the number one team on our on my preseason rankings.
I think you did.
And I'm gonna change my tone here and pretty comfortably, not comfortably, but Edwardsville will be number one when the season debuts. Having seen some of their guys this past weekend or 2 weekends ago at our winter showcase event, having seen a good amount of their guys, this past winter in general, whether it's at the sports barn or just in passing, like they're a young group, but it's a really like a way more talented group than I thought they were going to be. They did get 2 additions at semester, like players that transferred in to Edwardsville that I think are going to help them a lot. Their senior class is still very good. And they're 28s that are going to be tasked with kind of taking that step up. I think are more than capable of doing so. They kind of had a similar situation like this a couple years ago. They had a really deep 2023 senior class with Cole Funkhauser, Coach Funkhauser's son, Riley Ifrig, who's starting at SLU at first base, Andrew Hendrickson, who went on to have a really good career at Lincoln Land and is now at Central Missouri. And they supplemented that like core of seniors with Joe Chirotto, Lucas Krebs, Tyler Powell, a bunch of guys that were sophomores at the time that ended up playing really big roles in them winning a state title. And I think it's a pretty similar situation here. So I think I kind of went into this like November, December of this past year being like, okay, it's going to be a little bit of a down year for Edwardsville. And I've kind of done a full flip on that. I think they're going to be probably the best team in the Metro East again.
Wow. Now, one of the questions, and we talked about this, we've talked that I thought O'Fallon still has a little bit more pitching at this point than Edwardsville, but has that changed? Or what made you tip this?
Yeah. I think O'Fallon is probably deeper on the mound in terms of experience and guys that they have. I think when you look at the top end of the 2 pitching staffs, I would lean towards Edwardsville. Hunter Baugh, who's also going to be their starting shortstop. So like that's kind of an interesting dynamic there. I think he gave up like 2 or 3 runs all of last year.
Right.
He's probably the most competitive arm in the area in terms of like mental factor, compete factor, strikes. He's 86, 88, throws 3 pitches for strikes. Tony Eberlin is a guy I've seen a few times this winter that's really actually taken a pretty big jump up. He's like 90, 92 now, and whatever. He's not going to pitch at 90, 92, but he's going to pitch at 88, 91 probably, and scrape up 92s, 93s at some point this spring. He's headed to TCU, and those are guys that have been doing it since basically they were sophomores, like in regular roles. I think the return of Chase Milburn, who I think was kind of a question mark. How much is he going to actually throw? He's working his way back from an injury. Everything I've heard is he's going to be back in the middle of the season, basically, for them. And that's a guy that essentially helped carry them to state as a sophomore 2 years ago, through like 60 innings with a sub-2 ERA, and was really, really good. And his stuff has ticked up, like he's throwing harder now. So you've got 3 seniors at the top of that pitching staff that not only are talented but have experience. I think you look at a junior like Miller Dunnell, who is the younger brother of Dax Dunnell, who was at Edwardsville for a while. Like Miller's inexperienced with varsity level action, but he's mid to upper 80s, and it's a really clean arm, and it really, really works. And then you look at their sophomore class. I think this was really the biggest tipping point, with Nick Chirotto essentially turning himself into like a star. He's been in the upper 80s every single bullpen that he's thrown this winter, and it's all strikes, and it's 4 pitches, and they are all strikes. Like, it's 2 different breaking balls. He throws like an 81-mile-an-hour slider with a really good changeup. His last name is Chirotto, so I'm pretty confident he's going to be good. And Tyson Wampler, too, who's a guy we've talked about on this show before as a low to mid 80s strike thrower that can flip a breaking ball in for strikes and does nothing but live in the zone. Like, and by the way, that doesn't even factor in that there's probably like 2 or 3 other guys that I don't even know who they are, and they're going to have good seasons.
Right.
That happens every year at Edwardsville. So I think Edwardsville and O'Fallon are very similar. They'll be 1 and 2 on the preseason list that will come out here shortly. But it's a slight edge to the Edwardsville Tigers for me right now.
Okay. All right. It's sound. I mean, folks, he gave you his reasons. I'll tell you that.
I also forgot to mention that they are adding, I briefly brought this up earlier, but they are adding on the mound a transfer from Champaign Centennial named Ty Hunt, who's a 2027, who I also believe will be their starting quarterback next year on the football team, from what I've been told. Really good athlete, super good body. He's like 6'2", 6'3", 180, long, athletic, loose arm. He's been anywhere from 84 to 87 strikes with a decent little breaking ball, and he's going to hit for them too. Like, I would think he'll be a middle of the lineup or close to the middle of the lineup bat. So you factor that guy in on both sides of the ball. You also factor in that they're getting Jackson Vaughn from Triad, who I believe hit over 300 last year as a sophomore at Triad, and is now going to play regularly, likely, for Edwardsville as a physical left-handed hitter that can swing it. I don't know. I just my hunch tells me that this is, even though like they're kind of going into the season with a little bit less of a mystique around them as they have in the past, it's Edwardsville, and I'm probably just going to stick with that.
Okay. There you go, folks. I'm looking forward to this matchup too. I mean, this is March 27th. It's early in the season, but we're going to get a chance to look at, and on the other side of the state, Francis Howell.
Yeah, you want to talk about talent. You want to talk about talent.
And you have these two programs on either side. And this is why I think it's a border battle. I love this thought process. Both these coaches, we talked about Funkhouse well. On the other side, Tony Perkins, again, same thing, program, the wins, the production, building programs. They both have coaching staffs that develop talent, develop players. They have players that are playing in the summer that are playing high-level baseball. These kids know when they come into these programs, it's high-level baseball, and they've got to be prepared to come and compete. They're competing for a state championship, and that's their thought process. I think both programs have that mindset. And when you look at Francis Howell, I mean, you talk about pitching off the get. Brett Schneider, Dylan Curtis, Carson Drummond has looked pretty good.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Derek Chupp, Andrew Dirks.
they have like two and a half teams worth of pitchers on their staff. like Dylan Curtis is going to Mizzou. He's probably, if he's not the best arm in the area, he's one of the best arms in the area. Jake Brett Schneider's in that same conversation, right? Carson Drummond is sitting in the upper 80s. Jack Hubbard is a guy that threw a little bit for them last year and is a long, athletic, lanky right-hander going to Moberly that I saw in the summer and was really impressed with his ability to control his levers and spin a breaking ball. You've got Derek Chupp, who I just saw this weekend, is a 6'5" monster that's 90-92. Shake Speckert has been up to 94. Drew Dirks was excellent for them last year as a sophomore, headed to SLU. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Oh, Alex Versheldon. I don't know if you've heard that name. He's a left-hander. He's a left-hander going to Missouri SNT that this entire winter has basically been 90-92 from the left side. And no one's really talking about him a whole lot. And that's just like, I guarantee you I'm missing somebody. But it's ridiculous the amount of pitching. Like there's a reason why they're able to go in and play like in the Columbia tournament and play 6 games every week and get their guys, like get their position players, like going into the playoffs with 120, 130 at bats. You can't do that if you don't have the arms and the ability to do so. They could play 60 games if they were able to with how many arms they have. Like there's guys that are going to go on. There's guys that are going to go on and have pretty good college careers that are just going to throw 7 or 8 innings for Francis Howell this spring. And it's not because they're not capable of doing so. That's just the level of talent that this pitching staff has.
Yeah, and Brady Tanner in the middle of that batting order. I think
Jack Bogard
there. I mean, it's
AJ
just
Jones,
right? And even Speckert can hit. You know, you got these guys that Chase Craddock, I think is going to get a big opportunity. It'll be interesting to see because he had a good year, but he didn't get the at bats last year. You know, that maybe you would think he would have got at any other school, but Howell, man, it's you got to sometimes even wait your turn, and that's just kind of the way it goes.
100%,
right?
100%.
And so they've got plenty of offense. The one thing that I'm looking to see is who's going to catch these guys. I think if one place is kind of, if you look at Howell is behind the plate, what's that going to look like?
I've heard Eli Miller as a name to watch. I've heard that they've actually toyed around with the idea of putting Jack Bogard behind the plate, the sophomore shortstop, and getting him behind the dish to experiment with catching him. They did that with Colin Lovelady, I believe, in the past too, a guy who was a middle infielder that necessarily didn't have a whole lot of experience catching, but they put him back there because he was good enough. So I agree. Like if you're gonna have all these power arms and guys that are upper 8s to low 9s consistently, like you have to have somebody to catch the baseball. So we'll see what that looks like. But regardless, like if they can get that figured out in an average to slightly above average manner, the every other position on the diamond is advanced. So,
and this is, folks, March 27th. We'll be live streaming. It's from Edwardsville High School. It is a true border battle. I mean, these are 2 juggernaut programs. I mean, you think either way? Do you think they get a sniff for national rankings?
I would hope so. I would definitely think Francis Howell probably more so than Edwardsville in that regard, just because of some of the uncertainty around the Edwardsville team, maybe on a national scale. But that being said, Edwardsville has been in that conversation for forever. Like they went to the NHSI a couple years ago, maybe even last year, which is like, I think it was last year, which is like the best high school tournament in the country. So we'll see. But I would think Francis Howell opens the season firmly in that conversation.
That's what. So the next one here, we talked a little bit about this as you opened it. One of our game of the week in mid-April will be Edwardsville at O'Fallon. And, we're talking about these two teams. That's going to be on April 14th over there. I'm looking forward to this. This should be, in that mix right there. Who's got the upper hand in the Southwestern Conference? Yeah.
Yeah, it's conference. It's for the conference, which obviously matters, like especially around this area. But it's not only for that; it's also for the playoff seeding because all these teams are going to be in the same subsectional, which then affects regionals and the sectional semis. So they'll play twice, obviously being conference opponents.
Sure.
One time at O'Fallon, one time at Edwardsville. I would venture to guess, like if I was a betting man, that they'll split the series between the two. But you never know. You never know. It's two. For my money, it's the two best teams in the Metro East. It's the two, which therefore is the two best teams in the Southwestern Conference. And if you look at if you blow it up and look at the entire state of Illinois as a whole, counting Central Illinois, Chicago, Southern Illinois, it's probably two of like the top 15 teams in the entire state, if not like top 12. So that's certainly a matchup of two titans going at it. The interesting thing with that matchup will be the fact that they both might go into it with not the most sexiest records, like win-loss records per se, because like Edwardsville will play Francis Howell. They'll probably take a spring break trip somewhere that is going to be a gauntlet. O'Fallon will go down and play McCracken County in Kentucky, which is a powerhouse. They'll probably also play Trinity Catholic in that same weekend in Kentucky, which is also a powerhouse. They're both going to play in the Metro East Kickoff Classic against presumably very good teams. Like every year, Edwardsville hosts that, and they play Brother Rice, and they play New Trier, and they play Joliet Catholic, and Funkhauser always plays the best teams in Chicago when they come down here. They'll play Huntley. Shout out to the Red Raiders. So we'll see, but it's still going to be a really good matchup.
I was talking with Coach Funkhauser earlier, a couple weeks ago. We were talking about the coming out to do this game, and he was talking about that particular event they do. And hopefully next year we can get over and maybe we'll be able to live stream some of those games and see a little larger scale of Illinois baseball in that respect. I didn't know they did that. I didn't.
Yeah. They've done it every year. It really it's like the main event that jumpstarts the high school season down here. And it's cool because it's really the only time outside of the state playoffs, basically, that you will see the best teams down here play against the best teams up north. Which is just cool. And it's the start of the spring. So like nobody's in conference play yet. You can't really do something like that, in my opinion, in the middle of conference play, like once the actual conference season starts, because you're not going to get the teams to throw their best arms. So like you get everyone's best right out the jump. And it's pretty cool.
And it's funny you mentioned that they're going south, and Coach Roach at Jackson, we were talking about this, and he's Edwardsville's coming back from their trip down that way, and they're going to we'll stop in Jackson.
Yeah, and get Grant Brown or Carter Shipman or Drew Parsons thrown at them. Probably after seeing 88-92 all weekend. Here's a kid going to SEMO that's 88-92 with a banger breaking ball. That's what I mean. Like that's who they're going to see every single weekend, every single week. Now they do. I'm sure they have some softer competition on their schedule in some regards, and that's inevitable. But I would say 85 to 90% of both of those teams' schedules, O'Fallon and Edwardsville, are going to be against powerhouse teams that are going to throw their best guys against those teams because of who they are. Right, like O'Fallon is going to play Father McGivney or Triad at some point, and I would venture to guess they will see one of those teams' best arms, and the same for Edwardsville. So,
as and it's interesting as Coach Knox was talking about the two teams, Sacred Heart Griffin moving to Class 3 and Father McGivney going to Class 2, they are going to be on our schedule as well this year. Sacred Heart Griffin's coming down to Father McGivney for a ball game. These two teams, you've said you thought Father McGivney was down a little bit. What do you see with Sacred Heart Griffin coming off the championship? Do they have a shot in Class 3?
They do, because they bring back. So the tough thing for them is the fact that they lost Andy Antonacci, who was their do-it-all type of guy on both sides of the ball. Like, he was their best hitter last year. He was their best arm. Like, he was their number one arm. But outside of that, like, they lost a few other pieces too. But they bring back a majority of, like, the core group of players that got them to state last year. Like, Will Pennell is back. He'll probably be one of their best arms. Again, Ty Springer is back. He's their center fielder going to Lincoln Land. Carson Butler, shortstop, going to Heartland, which is one of the best junior colleges in the Midwest. Austin Rudder, who's a shortstop, or second base shortstop type, who was a sophomore last year, is a junior now. He's back. So they do bring back a lot, and they have some talented young guys that are going to step into that mold. The challenge will be is, like, who will they have to face in the postseason now that they're 3A and kind of being in that area? If it goes how it's gone historically, like, they'll probably run into Chatham at some point up there in regional play. And if that's also the case and they were to get past that, they would probably run into a Triad, a Mascoutah, or an Effingham at some point, which would be an uptick in competition from what they played last year in their postseason run. So this is stating the obvious, but yes, they have a chance. It will just be much harder for them. It also takes out a really, like, one of the top 2A teams. And I think I've said a few times on this show that Class 2A, kind of how you always talk about how 4A or Class 4 in Missouri is really good. That's how I feel about 2A in Illinois, especially in central and southern Illinois. Like, a lot of the really good teams and a lot of the teams that have some of the higher level players are actually 2A in this part of the state. And as you creep up to central Illinois too, Father McGivney being 2A, Teutopolis, who got walked off by SHG in the state title last year, St. Anthony being 2A, Roxana, Freeburg. Like, there's some pretty good 2A teams, and SHG graduating out of that, presumably then, takes away a true state title contender. So that has some ramifications in both classes, in 2A and 3A. And I'll be interested to see how Father McGivney does too, because obviously, like, they had that 2025 class that kind of was the driving factor for the success they've had the past couple years at 1A. Those guys are gone now, obviously, to graduation. They still have a load of talent on the team. They have a lot of 26s that were contributors last year. They have a pretty good 27 class too. They have a player named Matthew Crownhart who was homeschooled last year and is now at Father McGivney. And I believe they're still waiting to get a ruling if he will be eligible to play this upcoming season. But if he does play, like, that is a legit two-way bat. Like, he's a really good left-handed hitter, also super interesting on the mound. So obviously adding him would help them on both sides of the ball. They've got Jack Rolves, who for my money is probably the best shortstop in that class in the Metro East. Isaac Wendler, Ben Sink, Grant Reed behind the plate. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, so please don't get mad at me. But it's like they're going to be really good. They're going to be every bit of a 2A state title contender like they were last year in 1A. So I'm very interested to see how those teams do.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Diego. I'm looking forward to it. Our first real big kind of push into watching teams a little more consistently, live streaming some of these teams. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully we'll see how his schedule works, but hopefully we'll be able to get Diego out there and give us some of his analyst prowess. with the game. So we hope we can get him out there, because these are going to be some fun ones. It's going to be some good stuff. Diego, always a pleasure, man. Appreciate you dropping some knowledge for us, buddy.
Appreciate you guys having me. Looking forward to it. It's our last weekend before the high school season starts, so we can turn the page on the winter, which is a fun time but a stressful time, and get going to probably honestly the best time of the baseball calendar, which is the high school season. So
absolutely. And I want to I appreciate you allowing us out at your event a couple weekends ago with that. It's been fun. I've got getting to know those kids a little bit more, talking to them. You know, we had a great time with the kids on the Illinois side at the Scout Connect event. There were some good players out there, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was actually looking through, I'm working through some content pieces for the website right now, and looking through more like a deeper dive on some of the data, and rewatching some of the video. And I thought last year's event was really good. And I actually think this year's event was better from a talent standpoint, from top to bottom. Last year probably had more impact at the top. Like there were 7 or 8 Division I signees from that group last year. I don't know if we'll get that this year, especially with the way that the recruiting whole calendar atmosphere, everything is going. But I think from top to bottom, it was a really good event. And it was a more well-represented event from a logistical standpoint. Like, we had some Central Illinois players come down, a ton of Southern Illinois, like true Southern Illinois players make the trip up. Obviously, a lot of Metro East representation, a lot of Springfield representation. So it was cool. The interviews were great. I appreciate you guys coming out. And I'm looking forward to next year already. So
there you go. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in, and hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe. That helps the algorithm. Leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts on these games. Tell us if you think otherwise. We appreciate all the comments. If you want to support us even more, consider becoming a legacy member right now, and the YBM Club exclusive content for legacy members, for club membership. Go to our website, youthbaseballmidwest.com, hit the YBM Club tab, and join up. 50% off a full year. You get all that. We're going to do some more. We got some more exclusive content coming on our on that page. So appreciate you doing that. If you're interested in being a partner with us for our live streams, contact me, Brian. You can go to the website, youthbaseballmidwest.com. Shoot us a email. There it is. The brain just went fuzzy. But shoot us an email. We appreciate that, and all that you do out there supporting Youth Baseball Midwest. Till next time, everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, give it to them, Diego.
Throw strikes.
There you go. Simple. It's a simple game. All you hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.